Hey everyone, welcome back to Boo Boo Update. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button for all the latest updates on Mama June family. Today, we've got something exciting to talk about, Honey Boo Boo family. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. So grab a seat, and let's dive right in. Grab your coffee, because you are going to need it. What you are about to hear is a story that is still developing. A story that has sent shockwaves through the reality television universe and has shattered the image of a family many of us have watched grow up on our screens. We've followed the Shannon family through thick and thin. From the pageant stage with Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson to the dramatic interventions with Mama June. We've seen weddings, births, and countless family feuds. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared us for this. Early yesterday evening, in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Georgia, flashing blue and red lights illuminated the street. Neighbors peeked through their blinds, wondering what the commotion was about. They were about to become unwitting witnesses to the downfall of a man who, to the public, was a loving husband and father. Darren Kitchens, the husband of Lauryn "Pumpkin" Shannon Efford, was taken into custody by federal agents. The charge? A multi-count indictment for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, bank fraud, and aggravated identity theft, all stemming from a sophisticated and allegedly predatory real estate scheme that may have bilked innocent families out of millions of dollars. And as for Pumpkin, her reaction is just beginning to unfold online, and it is every bit as raw, shocking, and heartbreaking as you can imagine. Today, we are doing a deep dive. We're going to unpack everything. Who is Darren Kitchens, really? What exactly is this real estate fraud he's accused of? We'll analyze the red flags we may have all missed, examine Pumpkin's immediate and evolving reaction, and break down the devastating legal and personal fallout that is coming for this family. This is a story of alleged deceit, betrayal, and a picture-perfect life built on a foundation of lies. Stick around, because this is one you won't believe. Chapter 1: The All-American Family? The Rise of Pumpkin and Darren. To understand the magnitude of this implosion, we first need to rewind. We need to go back and look at the image that Darren and Pumpkin so carefully cultivated for the world. For many, Lauryn "Pumpkin" Shannon has been a constant presence on our televisions for over a decade. We first met her as the witty, sometimes sarcastic older sister on TLC's breakout hit, Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. While her younger sister Alana was the tiara-wearing star, Pumpkin was the relatable, down-to-earth sibling. As the years went on and the family transitioned to their WeTV series, Mama June from Not to Hot, which later became Road to Redemption and Family Crisis, Pumpkin's role evolved dramatically. She was no longer just the sister. She became the matriarch. The glue. When Mama June Shannon spiraled into addiction and legal troubles, it was Pumpkin who stepped up. At a very young age, she took custody of Alana, providing a stable home when their own mother could not. She became a mother figure to her own sister, a responsibility she seemed to carry with a maturity beyond her years. And right there by her side, through much of this turmoil, was Darren Kitchens. Darren entered the picture as Pumpkin's boyfriend and quickly became a fixture in the family's chaotic world. To viewers, he seemed like a grounding force. He was quiet, seemingly hardworking, and appeared to be deeply in love with Pumpkin. They married in Las Vegas in 2018, a quirky ceremony befitting their reality TV roots. Soon their family grew. First with their daughter, Ella Grace, then their son, Bentley Jameson, and later, their twins, Silas and Stella. On social media and on the show, they presented a united front. Darren was the devoted dad, often seen playing with the kids or working on their home. Pumpkin was the supermom, juggling 4 children, her sister, a household, and the pressures of reality TV fame. They were, in many ways, the success story of the Shannon family. While June and her various partners were mired in controversy, Pumpkin and Darren seemed to be building a solid, traditional life. They bought a house. They had a growing family. They were the picture of stability. Darren, specifically, was often portrayed as the provider. While Pumpkin's income was largely tied to the television show and social media promotions, Darren was said to have a career of his own. For a long time, it was mentioned that he worked as a mechanic. He was good with his hands, a blue-collar guy. It was a narrative that fit perfectly. It was reliable, trustworthy. In recent years, however, there was a subtle shift. The talk of Darren being a mechanic seemed to fade, replaced by vague references to him being involved in business or investments, more specifically real estate. The family's lifestyle also seemed to get a significant upgrade. There were newer cars, more expensive-looking home renovations, and a general sense of financial comfort that seemed to exceed what one might expect from their known sources of income. Fans noticed, of course. Comments on their social media would often ask, "What does Darren do for a living?" The answers were always vague. "He's a businessman," Pumpkin might reply, or "He works really hard for his family." This vagueness, once seen as a desire for privacy, is now being viewed through a much more sinister lens. The hardworking family man provider image was the perfect cover. The all-American dream they were selling to their followers was, according to federal prosecutors, a nightmare funded by fraud. He wasn't just building a home for his family. The FBI alleges he was destroying the dreams of others to do it. Chapter 2. The Arrest. The day the facade crumbled. Let's paint a picture of what we know about the arrest itself, based on local news reports and eyewitness accounts that are beginning to trickle out. The day was a typical Tuesday in their Georgia suburb. The twins were likely napping, the older kids might have been playing in the yard. It was the portrait of domestic tranquility. Around 5:30 p.m., several unmarked black SUVs descended upon their street. This wasn't a single police cruiser responding to a noise complaint. This was a coordinated federal operation. Men and women in jackets emblazoned with FBI emerged from the vehicles. Neighbors reported that the approach was swift, quiet, and professional. They weren't there to create a scene. They were there to execute a warrant. We have an unconfirmed report from a neighbor who spoke to a local news affiliate. They said, "I saw Lauryn come to the door, and her face just fell. She looked completely and totally shocked. They spoke to her for a moment, and then they went inside." Darren came out a few minutes later in handcuffs. He wasn't fighting. He just looked defeated. Think about that for a moment. Pumpkin, a woman who has dealt with cameras and public drama for half her life, standing in her doorway as her entire world collapses. The father of her 4 children being led away in handcuffs, not for a minor infraction, but by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're told that agents were inside the home for several hours. This is what's known as executing a search warrant. They weren't just there to arrest Darren. They were there to collect evidence. Laptops, phones, financial documents, deeds, contracts, anything and everything related to the business at the heart of this investigation. Every drawer, every file cabinet, every digital device would have been meticulously searched for proof of the alleged crimes. For Pumpkin, this must have been a terrifying and violating experience. Her home, her sanctuary, turned into a crime scene. Darren was transported to a federal holding facility in Atlanta. And as the sun set on their quiet street, the reality began to sink in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't something that could be fixed with a good lawyer and a public apology. The federal government does not indict individuals unless they believe they have a mountain of evidence. The charges are severe, and the life that Pumpkin and Darren had built was officially over. The only question now was, how deep did the rot go? And was Pumpkin completely in the dark? Or was she a willing participant in the fantasy? So, what is Darren Kitchens actually accused of? The indictment, which was unsealed this morning, is dense and damning. It paints a picture not of a simple mistake, but of a calculated multi-year scheme to defraud lenders, investors, and homeowners. Let's break it down in a way that's easy to understand. The core charges are wire fraud and bank fraud. Essentially, anytime you use electronic communications like an email, a text message, or a wire transfer to lie for financial gain, you could be committing wire fraud. Bank fraud is similar, but it specifically involves defrauding a federally insured financial institution, like a bank or a mortgage lender. So how does this relate to real estate? According to the indictment, Darren operated a small, unregistered real estate investment company, which we'll call Kitchens Key Properties for the sake of this report. The government alleges he engaged in several classic forms of real estate fraud. First, let's talk about forged documents and false statements. Prosecutors allege that Darren would identify vulnerable properties, often homes in pre-foreclosure or owned by elderly individuals who were perhaps not as financially savvy. He would approach them with what seemed like a great offer to help them out of a tough spot. The indictment claims he would then create fraudulent documents. This could include forging signatures on deeds to transfer ownership of a property to himself or his company without the owner's full, knowing consent. It could also involve creating fake bank statements or proof of funds to make his company appear more legitimate to lenders and partners than it actually was. Second, there's the loan fraud on a massive scale. This is where the bank fraud charges come in. The FBI claims Darren would use these fraudulently acquired properties to secure massive loans from banks. How? By wildly inflating the value of the properties. Here's how it allegedly worked. He'd gain control of a property worth, say, $150,000. He would then allegedly conspire with a corrupt appraiser to create a fake appraisal, claiming the house was worth $350,000. He would then take that fraudulent appraisal to a bank and get a mortgage or a home equity line of credit for, let's say, $280,000, 80% of the fake value. The bank, believing the appraisal is legitimate, wires him the money. Darren immediately pockets the $280,000. He might make a few payments on the loan to keep the bank from getting suspicious, but his goal was never to repay it. He would then repeat this process with multiple properties, creating a cascade of fraudulent loans. This leads to the third and most heartbreaking part of the scheme, targeting vulnerable people. The indictment lists several anonymous victims, referred to as Victim A, Victim B, and so on. Victim A was reportedly an 82-year-old widow. Darren allegedly approached her offering to help her with home repairs through a government program that didn't exist. He had her sign a stack of papers she believed were for the repair grant. Buried in that stack, prosecutors say, was a quitclaim deed that transferred her home, which she owned outright, to his company. She lost her home of 50 years and didn't see a dime. Victim B and Victim C were a young first-time homebuyer couple. Darren allegedly sold them a flipped house. The problem is, he never actually had clear title to the property. He had used fraudulent documents to make it seem like he owned it. The couple moved in, paid Darren hundreds of thousands of dollars, only to be evicted months later when the real owner or the bank showed up. They lost their entire life savings. And finally, the indictment includes a charge of aggravated identity theft. This is a serious one. It means he is accused of using another person's identifying information, like their social security number or name, without permission to commit a felony. This charge carries a mandatory consecutive sentence of 2 years in prison. It's not something that can be served at the same time as other sentences. It gets tacked on at the end. This wasn't just bending the rules. If these allegations are true, this was a predatory and destructive web of deceit. Darren Kitchens isn't just accused of tricking banks. He's accused of ruining lives, stealing generational wealth, and leaving a trail of financial devastation in his wake, all to fund a lifestyle that he then paraded on television and social media. The irony is sickening. The man who was praised for saving his own family is now accused of destroying others. As news of Darren's arrest began to spread like wildfire across social media and gossip sites, all eyes turned to one person, Pumpkin. How would she react? Would she stay silent? Would she release a statement? Would she defend him? For the first 12 hours, there was nothing. Absolute silence. Her usually active Instagram and TikTok accounts went dark. This, in itself, was a statement. The silence was deafening and spoke volumes about the shock and chaos likely unfolding behind the scenes. She was probably inundated with calls from family, from the show's producers, from lawyers. Then, around 8 a.m. this morning, the first crack appeared. Please respect my family's privacy at this time. There are things I am just learning and I need to process. My main priority is my children. Please just pray for us. This was the first acknowledgement. It was measured, pleading, and hinted that she was being blindsided by the details. The phrase "things I am just learning" is key. This is the beginning of a narrative. The shocked and betrayed wife narrative. It's a way to distance herself from the alleged crimes and position herself as another one of Darren's victims. Whether this is true or a calculated PR move, we don't know. But that was just the beginning. The pressure from online comments must have been immense. People were flooding her old posts with questions and accusations. Did you know? You were living off stolen money. Your poor kids. About 2 hours later, she clearly couldn't stay silent any longer. She went live on Instagram. And it was absolutely heartbreaking to watch. It was not a polished celebrity statement. It was a raw, emotional, and rambling plea from a woman whose life had been detonated. I'm going to play you a few key clips that have been screen recorded. Pumpkin on IG Live. Y'all. I don't even know what to say. I see all your messages, all the comments. And I can't believe what's happening. The man I married, the father of my babies, they're saying he did these horrible things, leading him out of our house, in front of our home. Pumpkin on IG Live. Everyone's asking if I knew. Knew what? That he was hurting people? No. God, no. He told me he was in real estate. That he was good at it. He worked so hard. He was always on his computer, on the phone. I thought he was building a future for us. For Ella and Bentley and the twins. He looked me in the eye and he told me everything was fine. How was I supposed to know? Pumpkin on IG Live. You think I would let my kids be raised on dirty money? After everything I've done to protect this family? To keep Alana safe? To build something good after all the crap we've been through? This is not me. This is not my family. I am just as shocked and disgusted as everyone else. I feel sick. I feel so sick. Wow. It's hard to watch that and not feel a sense of pity for her. She appears utterly devastated and betrayed. In that short, chaotic clip, she did a few things. She firmly denied any knowledge. This is legally and publicly crucial for her. She positioned herself as a victim. She framed Darren's alleged actions as a betrayal against her and their children. She reinforced her identity as the family protector. By bringing up Alana and her past struggles, she reminded her audience of her history of doing the right thing. Now, the cynics among us will say this is a performance. A necessary one to save her career, to maintain custody of her children, and to avoid potential legal jeopardy herself. The term willful blindness might come up in legal discussions, the idea that she should have known, or intentionally avoided knowing, what was going on given their upgraded lifestyle. But the other possibility is that she is telling the absolute truth. That she was married to a man who was living a complete secret life, a man who was a master manipulator, capable of fooling not just banks and victims, but also his own wife. Regardless of where the truth lies, one thing is clear: Lauryn Pumpkin Shannon's life as she knew it is over. She is now a single mother of 4, and her husband is facing decades in federal prison. Chapter 5: Hiding in Plain Sight? The red flags we all missed. Hindsight is always 20/20. When you look back at the last couple of years of Pumpkin and Darren's life through the lens of this indictment, certain things start to stand out. Red flags that, at the time, may have just seemed like the perks of reality TV success, now look like warning signs. Let's play detective for a moment. Red flag number 1: the vague and shifting career. As we mentioned earlier, Darren's job description was always a bit of a moving target. He went from being a mechanic, a very concrete, verifiable job, to a businessman. Then, more specifically, a real estate investor. This shift happened around 2021 to 2022. It's a common trope for people involved in shady dealings to use vague but impressive-sounding job titles. Consultant, investor, entrepreneur. They sound good, but they don't really mean anything specific, which makes it hard for people to ask pointed questions. Why the sudden career change from a stable hands-on trade to the high-stakes world of real estate investment with no apparent training or background? Red flag number 2. The lifestyle inflation. Let's be frank. While reality stars can make good money, the cast of the Mama June shows are not known to be at the top of the pay scale like the Kardashians. Pumpkin also does social media promotions for products like diet teas and subscription boxes. This provides an income. But is it enough to support a family of 6 in a large home with multiple new vehicles and a seemingly endless supply of cash for renovations and other expenses? About 18 months ago, Darren bought a brand new, top-of-the-line Ford F-250 pickup truck. These vehicles can easily cost upwards of $70,000 or $80,000. Around the same time, they did a major kitchen renovation, which Pumpkin showed off on Instagram. High-end appliances, granite countertops, that's a $30,000 to $50,000 expense right there. Where was this money coming from? At the time, everyone assumed it was from the show or that their social media game had gotten incredibly lucrative. But the indictment suggests a much darker source of funding. This sudden explosion of wealth directly coincides with the timeline of the alleged fraud. He wasn't just making money. He was allegedly spending the fraudulent loan money as fast as he could get it. There's a certain type of personality that can't resist showing off their wealth, and often, it's people who have acquired it illicitly. It's a need for validation. While Pumpkin was the main social media presence, Darren would occasionally feature in posts that highlighted their material success. A post captioned, "He works so hard for his family, he deserves it," next to a new car. A video tour of their renovated home. To the outside world, it looked like a happy family enjoying the fruits of their labor. To federal investigators, it looked like evidence. It's called structuring, where ill-gotten gains are spent on large, tangible assets to make the money seem legitimate. It's a way of laundering the money into their lifestyle. Every post showing off a new toy was another nail in his own coffin. This is a big one in today's age. If you are a legitimate real estate investor or company, you have a professional online presence, a LinkedIn profile, a company website, a Zillow profile with past sales. Something. Go ahead, try to find Kitchen's Key Properties or any registered real estate business under Darren's name. You won't find one. There is no digital trail for his supposed company. Why? Because legitimate businesses want to be found. Fraudulent ones need to operate in the shadows. His entire business was allegedly conducted through burner phones, private emails, and face-to-face meetings with vulnerable people, a ghost in the machine who only existed on paper when he was allegedly forging documents. Looking back, the signs were there. The vague job, the sudden cash flow, the need to show off the wealth, and the complete lack of a professional footprint. We all just got caught up in the story they were selling. The story of the underdog family finally making it big. With Darren in federal custody, what does the road ahead look like for him, legally speaking? This is not a state-level charge that might end in probation. This is the big leagues. Step 1. Arraignment and plea. Darren will soon be arraigned in federal court. This is where he will be formally read the charges against him and will be asked to enter a plea, guilty or not guilty. Given the circumstances, he will almost certainly plead not guilty at this stage. Step 2. Bail. His lawyers will argue for him to be released on bail pending trial. They will argue that he is not a flight risk, citing his family and ties to the community. The prosecution will argue that he is a flight risk and a potential economic danger to the community. Given the scale of the alleged fraud and the resources he might have hidden away, the judge could either deny bail entirely or set it at a very high amount, possibly in the millions of dollars, requiring a 10% cash bond. Can Pumpkin and the family come up with, say, $100,000 in cash right now? That remains to be seen. Step 3. The trial or a plea deal. This is where it gets serious. The vast majority of federal cases, over 90%, end in a plea bargain. Darren's lawyers will see the evidence the government has compiled against him during the discovery process. If the evidence is as overwhelming as the indictment suggests, they will likely advise him to take a deal. A plea deal would involve him pleading guilty to some of the charges in exchange for the government dropping others and recommending a more lenient sentence. This would avoid a costly and embarrassing public trial. If he doesn't take a deal, he goes to trial. A jury of his peers will hear all the evidence, including testimony from the alleged victims, the bankers, and the FBI agents who investigated the case. For a conviction, the jury must find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Step 4. Sentencing. If he pleads guilty or is found guilty at trial, he faces sentencing. This is where the true gravity of his situation becomes clear. Let's do some potential math and remember, this is just a hypothetical based on federal sentencing guidelines. Wire fraud/bank fraud. Each count carries a maximum of 20 to 30 years. The guidelines will calculate a sentence based on the amount of money stolen. If it's in the millions, that number goes way up. He could be looking at a base-level sentence of 7 to 10 years just for the fraud itself. Aggravated identity theft. This is the killer. It carries a mandatory 2-year sentence that must be served consecutively. So, you take the sentence for the fraud, and you add 2 years on top of it. Realistically, if convicted on all counts, Darren Kitchens is looking at a sentence of anywhere from 10 to 15 years in federal prison. He would likely be in his late 30s or early 40s by the time he gets out. His children will have grown up without him. He will have missed their entire childhoods. And that's just the prison time. He will also be ordered to pay restitution. That means paying back every single dollar he is found to have stolen. This debt will follow him for the rest of his life. Any money he ever makes in the future could be garnished to pay back his victims. The legal road ahead for Darren Kitchens is bleak. There is no easy way out. Chapter 7. The Aftermath: Family, Fame, and Finances. The ripple effects of this arrest will be felt long after the legal battle is over. This is a detonation in the center of a family that has already endured so much. The impact on Pumpkin and the children. First and foremost, there are the children. 4 very young children who may have just seen their father for the last time as a free man. Pumpkin is now, for all intents and purposes, a single mother of 4. The emotional and psychological toll on her and the kids is immeasurable. She will have to explain this to them, guide them through it, and shield them from the public scrutiny, all while dealing with her own grief and betrayal. Financially, she could be destitute. If the government proves their lifestyle was funded by fraud, they can seize assets purchased with that money. The house, the cars, the money in their bank accounts. It could all be subject to forfeiture to pay back the victims. Pumpkin could find herself losing her home and everything in it. The impact on the TV show. What does this mean for Mama June Family Crisis? This is a double-edged sword for the producers at WETV. On one hand, this is a reality TV goldmine. The drama is real, it's intense, and it would undoubtedly draw in viewers. A season focused on Pumpkin dealing with the fallout of Darren's arrest would be incredibly compelling television. On the other hand, there are moral and ethical lines. How much of this can they film? Do they want their show to be associated with such a serious federal crime? It's very likely the show's producers are in crisis talks right now. My prediction? The show will continue, and this will become the central storyline. Lauryn will need the paycheck now more than ever. The impact on the wider family. What about Mama June, Alana, Jessica, and Anna? This scandal touches them all. Their family name is once again linked to crime and controversy. Mama June, who has been on a redemption arc, now has to contend with this new shadow over the family. She has released a short statement to a tabloid saying, "My thoughts are with my daughter and my grandchildren." It's a sad day. Alana Honey Boo Boo Thompson, who is now in college, has relied on Pumpkin and Darren for stability for years. Darren was a father figure to her. This betrayal will surely hit her hard as well. She has been completely silent on social media since the news broke. This family, which has fought so hard to stick together through addiction, arrests, and internal feuds, is now facing its greatest test yet. The trust has been broken in the most spectacular way imaginable. Conclusion. So there you have it. The shocking arrest of Darren Kitchens. The allegations of a cold, calculated real estate fraud scheme that targeted the vulnerable. A wife and mother's world turned upside down in the blink of an eye. And a family famous for its drama, now at the center of a real-life tragedy. If the federal government's allegations are true, then Darren Kitchens built a house of cards on the shattered dreams of his victims. And that house has now come crashing down. The story he and Pumpkin sold to the world of love, stability, and hard-won success may have been the biggest fraud of all. We will continue to follow this story as it develops, from the bail hearing to the potential trial and sentencing. But for now, the only thing that is certain is the devastation left in the wake of these stunning allegations. What do you think? Were you shocked by this news? Did you see any of the red flags we talked about? And what do you think this means for the future of Pumpkin and the Shannon family? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section below. I will be reading and responding to as many as I can. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive reporting, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the T-Zone so you don't miss any of our future updates on this and other stories. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel Boo Boo Update. Thank you for watching.